Washington County Quorum Court has been called to order. Welcome to our meeting. We want to thank our citizens. Before we get going, obviously, we want to make sure we open up with our pledge and prayer. At least, Justice Eki, would you lead us in the pledge and prayer?
Thank you, Judge, for the honor. Will you join me in prayer? Heavenly Father, we are so grateful that you created these United States of America, where we are free to choose and to live our lives with liberty and justice for all. We're thankful for our president, our vice president. We're thankful for our governor, and we're thankful for our judge. We ask that you would give us wisdom and guidance and fill us with your spirit that we may accomplish your will to be done here in this place. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Justice Eki. Ms. Betty, you want to go ahead and start roll call?
Daniel Balls.
Here.
Harvey Bowman.
Here.
Alicia Devins. Robert Dennis.
Here.
Lisa Eki.
Here.
Ann Harbison.
Here.
Joe Kiklak.
Here.
Tom Lundstrom. Eva Madison.
Here.
Sue Madison. Joel Maxwell.
Here.
Joe Patterson.
Here.
Butch Pond.
Here.
Bill Usry.
Here.
Thank you, Betty. I think we got notice that Justice Madison, Justice Lundstrom, and Justice Devins would be out today. Just keep them in your thoughts and prayers as they're traveling and vacationing, etc. And we also asked Justice Maxwell to serve as parliamentarian today. County Attorney Lester is in his CLE or continuing legal education classes down in Little Rock. So with that being said, I take a motion to adopt our agenda. Justice Madison.
I had one addition. I have my report from our Association of Counties meeting that I would like to just slip in with committee reports, if you would.
Okay.
On item 11.
So that's going to be amended, the agenda. I think we also had a couple other. Justice Kiklak.
Judge, I move that we amend the agenda to move items 10.1 through 10.4 after the approval of the minutes.
Okay. Justice Pine? Justice Bowman?
Yep. Thank you for that change. Yes, thank you, Judge. I'd like to go ahead and, under other business, add a 12.1, recognizing the vacancy on our quorum court.
And the other business?
Yes, under other
on
business.
The vacancy.
Be
All right.
12.1.
Yes, sir.
Justice Pine.
Also, under other business, we have two more items which we've numbered 12.2 and 12.3.
Okay, so if I got that, Justice Madison has moved to add a Association of Counties report under Section 11, under the committee report.
Yes, Judge.
Justice Bowman has asked that we add the JP vacancy under as 12.1, and then Justice Pond has asked to add to 12.2. So now I take a motion to approve our amended agenda. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, we have our agenda. Justice Madison.
In my colleague's absence tonight, I would make a motion that we suspend the rules tonight and read all the ordinances by title only.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second to have ordinances read by title only. All in favor? Those opposed? Okay. And also on the amended agenda, we're going to move the finance report to after the, what was that? To move all of after approval of minutes. Okay. Well, now we're on the, did we vote on the, we just approved the suspending of the rules, so we're fine with that. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Pardon me? Oh, citizen comments. I'm sorry. CS? Citizen comments. We welcome our county citizens to come to the to the microphone and visit with us? All righty. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, approval of minutes now, number 6. You do not have minutes with our change and move and the county attorney out for doing his classes. We'll have the minutes to you guys first part of next week, and then you guys will be able to vote on them at the next committee meeting. So early next week, you'll get the minutes, and then you'll be able to vote on them and approve them at the next Quorum Court meeting.
Do we need to table that? I'd move to table the minutes until the next
To
meeting.
the next. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Item number 7. Number 10. There you go. Very good. So, Justice Madison, we're going to go ahead and start with you.
Yes. Did I do something?
Okay, sorry.
We just moved.
Okay.
Yeah. Justice Maxwell, are you doing the reading tonight?
You'll read it.
So if you would read 10.1 by title only, please.
An ordinance recognizing and appropriating revenue of $636 in the drug court fund for 2017, whereas it was recently discovered that an additional $636 was never properly appropriated to the drug court fund due to an error by the previous grants administrator, and whereas this money must be appropriated or it will be returned to the state of Arkansas, and Washington County, Arkansas will lose the ability to use this money for its intended purpose. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, that Article 1, there's hereby anticipated revenue of $636 in the federal grant revenue line of the drug court grant fund for 2017. Article 2, there is hereby appropriated the amount of $636 from the drug court grant fund to the general supplies line item of the SAMHSA budget for 2017.
I know you just wanted to do that. You don't have to do it on all of them.
Just add it on.
But I want you to really enjoy being parliamentarian tonight.
You got to get the practice in.
Yeah. Okay, so this is what it sounds like. There was just a mistake found, and we need to appropriate an additional $636 into the drug court grant fund. I would move to pass 10.1.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Well, we got to have a roll call on it.
Oh,
And
that's-
public comments. And
that's
public
right.
comments. And public comments.
Public comments first, and then Betty, you'll do the roll call. Public comments?
Justice Kiklak. Justice Lindstrom.
Are we doing public comment?
Public
You did.
comments?
We did.
We didn't have anything. Okay, go ahead with your roll call.
Okay, start over. Justice Kiklak.
Yes.
Justice Lindstrom. Justice Madison.
Yes.
Justice Maxwell.
Justice Maxwell.
Yes.
Justice Patterson.
Yes.
Justice Pond.
Yes.
Justice Essery. Justice Balls. Justice Bowman. Justice Devens. Justice Dennis. Justice Ecke. Justice Harbison.
Okay, it's approved. Ordinance adopted.
So 10.2, this is an ordinance appropriating some FEMA grants into the road fund, but before you get too excited that you think FEMA moves as quickly as the recent rains, this is from last year. This, Farber, do you have something to share with us about this?
Well, I just wanted to, we need to make a change to the ordinance.
Okay.
In the title, it should read 404-839. In article, or the first whereas should read the same, 404-839.
You need parliamentary read the title.
Yes. So,
with the brief.
Justice Maxwell, would you read this by title only with that correction?
An ordinance recognizing and appropriating revenue in the amount of $404,839 in the road fund for 2017.
Thank you. I'd move to pass 10.2.
It's been moved and properly second. The questions, all in favor?
Public
Oh, roll.
comment.
Well, we got a second one? We got a second read?
It's an appropriation ordinance. Oh, we did a second. Okay.
So it's moved and properly second. Okay. Public comments? All right. Betty?
Justice Kiklak.
Yes.
Justice Madison.
Yes.
Justice Maxwell.
Yes.
Justice Patterson. Justice Pond.
Yes.
Justice Essery. Justice
Bond.
Balls.
Bond.
Justice Bowman. Justice Dennis. Justice Ecke? Justice Harbison? Justice Kick.
Okay. That's 10-2.
Okay.
All right.
10.3. This was actually the topic of a little bit more discussion at our Budget and Finance meeting. So Washington Regional has approached us about creating a health facilities board in the county so that they can take advantage of getting bonds that have a tax-exempt status. So they are a nonprofit, so they don't pay taxes, but the purchasers of the bonds wouldn't pay. And I know we have an attorney here on behalf of the hospital that can answer all your bond questions because I cannot. But there was a lot of discussion. The CFO for the hospital was here and also answered questions, but this would not affect the county's ability in any way to do any type of bonds. We don't have any plans for any upcoming bond initiatives, but this would only limit us in this current year from any type of bond, and we don't have any plans to do that. Thereafter, it would be fine. So this sounds like it saves the hospital a considerable amount of money because they're able to offer a better interest rate without the tax, and the law provides for it. So I would move to pass 10.3.
Read it.
Did you read the title?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yes, and J.P. Maxwell, if you'd read the
Cutting
title,
me out of my
please.
job.
Yeah, sorry.
An ordinance creating the Washington County, Arkansas Health Facilities Board pursuant to the provisions of Title 14, Chapter 137 of the Arkansas Code of the 1987 annotated, prescribing other matters relating thereto and declaring an emergency.
Yes, and thank you and you should be glad you don't have to read that one tonight. This one's a little longer. This does have an emergency clause, so it will take a supermajority to pass because it needs to take effect more quickly. And it's not an appropriation ordinance, so it wouldn't pass ordinarily on the first reading. So we don't have to suspend the rules to read it, do 3 readings, but it has to pass with the emergency clause on the first time. So now I would move to pass 10.3.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Oh, public discussion or further comments? Counselor, do you have any comments you want to make?
No, sir, not unless anyone has any questions that I did not address last week.
Go ahead and just state your name and let us know who you are.
I'm Michael Moyers. I'm an attorney with Friday, Eldridge & Clark out of Little Rock, and I'm the bond attorney for the bond issue that's being contemplated after the issuance or after the adoption of this ordinance. And I prepared the ordinance that's before you tonight.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Counselor.
Yes, sir.
Okay, roll call, Ms. Betty.
Justice Kicklack?
Yes.
Justice Madison?
Yes.
Justice Maxwell?
Yes.
Justice Patterson? Justice Pond?
Yes.
Justice Ussery?
Yes.
Justice Bowles?
Yes.
Justice Bowman?
Yes.
Justice Dennis?
Yes.
Justice Ecke?
Yes.
Justice Harbison?
Yes.
Okay. Justice Madison.
So the last item that came out of the Finance and Budget Committee was 10.4. This is a request from the prosecutor's office to change a case coordinator position to a full-time position from a part-time position due to increased workload. And I'm still trying to figure out how a new computer system requires more work, but that was apparently part of it. So, Justice Maxwell, if you would read this by title only.
An ordinance creating the position of case coordinator in the prosecuting attorney's budget and appropriating the amount of $28,446.71 from the general fund to the prosecuting attorney's budget for 2017.
There needs to be changes. The amounts aren't right.
Okay.
They need to be rounded. So in the title, it needs to be updated to 28,448. Article 2 needs to be updated to 28,448. And then the line item descriptions, the first one for full-time salary should be $20,530. Social Security should be $1,571. Non-contributory retirement should be $3,008 for a total appropriation of $28,448.
All right, so we'll read that.
With With those amendments for mostly just Scrivener's errors, I would move to pass 10.4.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Up. Any public comments? That's all. Prosecuting attorney, you have any comments you want to make?
Not unless anyone has any questions. I'd be happy to answer anything.
Okay. Thank you. So it's been Miss Betty.
Okay. Justice Kicklack?
Yes.
Justice Madison?
Yes.
Justice Maxwell?
Yes.
Justice Patterson?
Yes.
Justice Pond?
Yes.
Justice Ussery?
Yes.
Justice Balls?
Yes.
Justice Bowman?
Yes.
Justice Dennis?
Yes.
Justice Ecke?
Yes.
Sorry. Justice Harbison?
Judge, we had a little bit more discussion at the Finance Budget Committee about the budget, but no other business came out of the committee, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Justice Madison. And I do appreciate the end of the budget meeting when we did get into the budget piece. Okay, item number 7, Ozark Transit Report. Mr. Hadley, come to the front.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge.
State your name again.
Court. My name is Jeff Hatley. I'm the Public Information Officer for Ozark Regional Transit. Unfortunately, ridership is down for 2017. We feel like that's largely due to the fire we had back on January 10th. We mostly think of the buses that were destroyed, in which we lost 80% of our fixed route fleet. But what a lot of people don't think about is we also lost the bicycle racks on there, the Wi-Fi, the GPS tracking. All of those systems coordinate together to help people find the bus system, to find the bus stops, to obviously store their bicycle if they're using that as a reason to ride the bus, and so forth. But one thing that we also lost was all of our radios. So dispatch has been unable to contact these new borrowed buses. The drivers out on the road, and those buses are unable to talk to one another. I talked with our IT person today, and that problem is probably going to be resolved in about 3 weeks. So that will help us when a bus is a little bit behind and needs to call ahead to a connecting route to tell them to hold up for a few minutes so that this passenger can make that connection. We'll be able to start doing that again in about 3 weeks. There are some positives going on. I don't know if I reported or not yet, but we have turned over all our data that Google needed in order to start using Google Transit. So if you go to Google Maps now and you see the little bus icon, you can click on that and it will walk you through where you're at, the nearest bus shelter or bus stop, catching which route and transferring that route all the way to the end address that you're wanting to go. So obviously we need the Route Shout phone application back up with the GPS tracking and all that kind of stuff to make it a fully fledged system, to make it easier for people to access the bus system. But we're working on that as well. We got a grant from the Walton Family Foundation to do a study for light bus rapid transit, and that survey and that study is ongoing. We expect the results of that from our consultants end of June. Present that to the board the following month of July, and hopefully get something going on that. What light bus rapid transit is, if you think of the light rail system that seems to be a subject of conversation that people want to talk about, it's basically that, except it's on soft tires. And so the proposed route would be up the 71 business corridor. It would move a large number of people a long distance with minimal stops in between from South Fayetteville to, I've thought it was going to be North Bentonville, but the study has actually come back and they're actually looking even to the Missouri border, so all the way through Bella Vista. All those things are options that have to be hammered out, obviously. So, but we will be looking at 12 buses on the one route, so 6 going south at any given time and 6 going north at any given time. And those buses would be high capacity and double doors, so people could get on and off quickly, and you could carry as many as 40 seated passengers on each bus. So technically, if you accumulated all that and each person drove one single car on the roads, technically it would be close to 500 cars being taken off north-south bound highways, especially in the morning and 5 o'clock commutes. That would be huge for Northwest Arkansas. But the Walton Family Foundation is seeking to have something like that to bolster the use of the Razorback Greenway and a true alternative form of transportation. And so we're certainly happy to be a part of that. Coming up in the summer, as we always do, we'll be offering a Kids Ride Free program. So kids 17 and under can ride our bus for free. Obviously, there's limitations to that. 12 and under must have a older guardian riding with them. And that's been real successful in the past because we do access, well, actually now just 2 aquatic centers since we did access the aquatic center out at Prairie Grove with the Route 620, but now just the Springdale and Rogers Aquatic Center, but also both malls and actually 3 malls if you consider Frisco Station Mall and all the libraries around Northwest Arkansas. But in conjunction with Kids Ride Free, we've also reached out to some of the school systems. Well, I've reached out to all of them. Some of them have responded back. But they have their summer free lunch program, and oftentimes our bus routes go within a block or 2 of these schools, and sometimes adjacent to the schools. So we're trying to promote the Kids Ride Free program along with the summer free lunch program so the kids can have access to the free lunch programs. We've got something on our website. Our social media director is doing a bang-up job getting word out, and so she's found a USDA website that actually lists all the schools that are offering the summer lunch programs, and so we've posted that on our website for people to access. I wanted to make sure, I should have asked this initially, is everybody getting these reports that wants to get them? I know that a couple people had asked me this month to add them. Yes. We've got a couple new additions. One is this graph on page 8 of the report, and it just kind of shows the overall ORT ridership. It's an easy way of showing how we were generally increasing in ridership until the fire on January 17th, and obviously it was a huge dip, and we're slowly but surely recovering from that. I keep hearing 18 months till we're fully restored. I'm still hearing 18 months from now before we're fully restored. Getting everything back recovered from that. We did get a report from the fire marshal, and we have made our insurance claim on that. We don't have the hard copy of his report, but basically it was due to wind. It was one of 2 factors. The wind, as you know, was blowing 40 miles an hour that night, and they came out, when I say they, I see all the experts that came out and investigated all this. It was either the wind blowing up the tailpipe of a running vehicle, and we were doing a regeneration deal with that, which regeneration is with a diesel engine. It has a filtration system that builds up particles during the day and as it's going, and after a time you have to put this regen thing to burn out these particles. Well, this thing creates heat. The wind blowing up the tailpipe increased the oxygen obviously going to that and raised the temperature either in that process and fanned flames underneath a plywood subfloor that was 4 inches above this particle filter, or it fanned flames in the end of the exhaust where exhaust is coming out, and it raised that enough to where the bumper that has a plastic type coating around the hard metal part of the bumper increased that enough to where the bumper caught on fire. One of those 2 things occurred to start the fire in one bus, and of course the winds were blowing in a northeast direction, and all the 19 other buses were northeast of this bus in question. So unfortunately it's just one of those things. Like I say, they have wrapped up their report with one exception, and that is the compressed natural gas buses that we have on site, which we had 4. We now have 2. I know it's the National Transportation Safety Board and one other entity. I can't remember the other entity, but they've asked us to keep the 2 burned out hulks of those CNG buses there on site for any further investigating that they need to do, because 2 of one of the CNG tanks launched and landed 3 blocks away and took out a lady's gated fence. So obviously they want to know why that happened and how they can prevent that in future designs of CNG vehicles. So that's what we know about the fire right now. Like I said, we have received, we have filed our insurance claim, and we do know how much we're going to get back. It's about 30% of what we lost. We didn't have insurance that had covered replacement costs. It covered depreciated value. So with that, the plan is to use a lot of that as matching funds for and start writing some federal grants to start replacing assets over the next year or so. Another thing here in the report that's brand new as of this report is this graphic, and it's the Washington County. This is the demand response pickups, and I'm sure this is what the court's most interested in, but it kind of gives a breakdown of all the towns in Washington County, and it also gives a trip purpose. And as you can see on reading, this was page 9 of that report, by far the leading reason for a bus trip is medical reasons. We showed that we picked up 250 people in Washington County in the month of April with demand response, and that's not necessarily the rural Washington County. It also includes Fayetteville and Springdale in there, but it was 250 people picked up with demand response, and that's something maybe we can track going forward to see if that number's increasing at all. With that, I will leave it up to any questions or comments or concerns, or happy to talk about anything.
Any questions? Justice Bowman?
Thank you, Judge. How are you going to determine the age of kids coming on the bus? You said you got to be cut off at 12 years of age, up to 17. Those kids are not going to have driver's license to show you.
Right. And it's going to be up to the judges, the bus driver's discretion and judgment. Obviously, if a kid is obviously under 12, the driver's to tell them, you've got to go back and get a guardian. And if the kid is acting up and not behaving in a mature way, he will not be allowed, or she will not be allowed to ride again. That's kind of one of those gray area type things. We do it so that kids have a way of getting around and enjoying some of the amenities around. Obviously, we assume that they have the parents' permission. And the best case scenario would be if the parents actually walked them to the bus stop the first time, and maybe even rode with them the first time.
What about any liability issues with those kids, underage kids?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. One of the bus drivers brought that up in one of our safety meetings today. And like I say, it's one of those judgment things, and it's one of the things that you have to assume that everything's going to be fine. But, yeah, if I was a bus driver, I'd be concerned about some of those things, because you hear about stuff on the news all the time. So we're doing it until we're told not to. But, like I say, we're hoping it's a positive amenity for kids, especially with the school lunch programs. But, yeah, there's personal concern.
How soon do you expect to have the insurance money?
It's a good question. I don't know. I just found out that we got the insurance as of today, this morning. So that's not that we got the money, but that we made the insurance claim.
Is there expectations to start buying new equipment, or are you going to be buying some used equipment, or what's the plans?
With the grant money, we will be asking for new, but obviously we're going to entertain any used vehicle that around the country that would fit in our needs and is a good deal for us. And there are some.
Well, since you've got the Google service, are you going to try to revert to the Wi-Fi system as well?
For the radios?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay. And that's the one thing, too, that our IT person said today, that's going to be coming up in 3 weeks. That's going to be the Wi-Fi system.
Are the bike racks on all the buses, or just part of the buses on designated routes?
We had... we didn't even have bicycle racks on all of our buses that were destroyed, most of them, but some of them were leased, and we hadn't added a bicycle rack to them. The buses that were spared the fire, I think 3 out of the 5 had bicycle racks. The ones that we've received on loan from other entities, most do not have them. I believe the Razorback Transit buses they gifted to us both had bicycle racks, and then a bus was gifted to us from the Pittsburgh Lake Erie transit system, and I believe it has a bicycle rack.
Do you have a large number of people using bikes on and riding the buses?
We did. Not a huge number, but a significant number.
A significant number. Okay, well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Mr. Hadley, appreciate it. The light rail, you'll keep us up on that one. That just sounds pretty interesting.
You mean the light bus rapid
The light
transit?
bus rail,
Yes.
light bus transit. That seems pretty interesting. With your ridership, I got a quick one. With the children, you calculate that as riders.
Yes.
Even though it would be free for them, you're still counting them as riders.
Yes, sir.
So then your ridership numbers will go up.
Yes, sir.
Your numbers still will be down as far as dollars, correct?
The fare box is not much of an income source.
Okay.
It's I think 10% of our total budget each year. So yeah, the ridership does go up. It does spike a little bit in the summer due to kids riding free. Not as much as we'd like, obviously, but and then it rises again when school starts back because the NWAC and the U of A students come back and start riding the bus again.
Okay.
So the numbers won't dip that much as far as free fare, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Because, kids 17 and under ride, I think it's 60 cents on per trip anyway. I mean, it's a discounted fare anyway.
Any other ones? Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, I think we're on item 8. That's the judge's report. And, I see, before I get going, I want to acknowledge Sheriff Helder's in the room. And if you guys did not know, this is Law Enforcement Week or Police Week. And so, again, thank you, Sheriff Helder, for the work that you do in our county and obviously working with all our police and law enforcement folks around the county. Thank you. Get your hand up. And that's nationwide, so they're doing things all across the country with this Police Week. My report, I have to stop and say that I want to thank the people and the citizens of the county. Clearly, April was a busy month for the county, but in particular, the last 2 or 3 weeks, we got hit with the storm, and I call it the flood of 2017, April, and we had a number of citizens in the county even calling and saying, how can I help? What can I do to help? And so for me, even with some lost lives, we had, I guess, 8 or 9, probably I think it was 9 people who lost their lives, to see the county really pull together, whether it be citizens, the sheriff and his department was out there, EMTs across the county, the JPs and elected officials were calling, what can we do to help? And then obviously our county team was just in full force. And so it was powerful. Sad seeing the rescues and people having to evacuate, and I mean, just tremendous amount of flash flooding and loss. But then powerful at the same time to see how quickly and just without ceasing, the citizens of the county just moved forward. So I really wanted to say that. I want to make sure our county citizens in the county heard that, because I appreciate them reaching out and saying, what can I do and how can I help? And so that was duly noted. And I'm really proud to say that our county took to this crisis, this disaster, and really pulled together. A few highlights for the county. I want to make sure I recognize, he's out of the room now, but our Chief of Staff, Carl Gales, and yeah, he's in the back there. Chief Gales, and really just yeoman's work and leading our team with County Attorney Brian Lester, who's out in class, and then all our department directors. I see Farber here and Watson here. Charles Ward, Director Ward. Our road department clearly above and beyond just went nonstop through the floods, after the floods, worked around the clock, and I mean, slept in the offices, turned around a few hours later and got right back at it. And so, again, to say that I have a great team, we have a great team in the county. And again, I just can't say that enough. But what they did was just unbelievable. We probably had 89 roads impacted by roads and bridges impacted by the floods. And when less than 10 days, we've had 87 of those roads open back up temporarily to make sure the buses and our emergency services could get to our kids and get them to school, and our emergency people can get to residents, et cetera. So 87 out of 89 roads and bridges reopened temporarily. That's again, I can't speak enough of how great that was, and that's to the leadership, Charles, you and Brad, and the rest of your supervisors and the employees who just made that happen. I know you're going to say you didn't do it alone, because you didn't. Our emergency management team, I have to give hats and kudos to those guys. John Luther, again, this is what he does, and working with the Swift Boat Rescue teams, they were out there. Again, Sheriff Helder's teams were out there. I think we rescued over 40 folks who were out there who somehow got beyond the barricade or got their car taken down a rapid or into a farm field. I mean, it was amazing what I saw out there, and to know that John Luther and his team was out there on point, communicating with the fire departments as well as those emergency management teams, rescue teams, is again incredible. Our planning team, where's Director Kimbrough? I thought I saw him. He's back there. He's working and spending a lot of time with our those who are impacted by the floods, making sure we capture their names. And we've had FEMA in, working with our road department and the emergency management team, John Luther's team. They come in, they've done the initial investigations, making sure, one, that we did meet the threshold for the disaster. I think their disaster threshold was $750,000. Quickly, I think they said that, yes, you guys are way over that, and I think we're probably knocking on the door close to $2 million, and maybe a little better than that when it's all said and done with the type of damages and loss. But again, thank you, Director Kimbrough. Our Director Viney, who runs our environmental piece, has run some cleanups. We're getting ready to do another cleanup in the county, May 30th through June 2nd, and that's again because we just did a cleanup in the mid-April, but then the flood happened 2 weeks later, and so clearly people are in need of doing something to get that damaged goods out of their homes and yards, et cetera. So the end of May 30th through June 2nd, we'll have another special county cleanup just to help our citizens get that taken care of and removed. We're going to have one Saturday down in West Fork. So again, you guys are out and about, come out to West Fork and Riverside Park. There'll be some cleanup out there. Again, FEMA's been out. They'll be back in about 3 weeks to do even more work, spending more time with their case team, looking at individuals as well as our public facilities and what types of dollars and assessment they'll be able to return back. As Justice Madison made a comment, we know we're going to get something from FEMA. When we would get it from FEMA, I have no idea. And so there's put pressures on our budget, and that's the last piece I'll say is our team has been working through budgets for the past few months, working with Director Farber, and every month we're just kind of walking through our budgets. What can we do to tighten up the shoestring, generate more revenues, et cetera? And then obviously I'm looking forward to working with the JPs as we start going through this budget discussion. So again, just wanted to again share that as the judge report. Veteran Services Office will be hosting their open house tomorrow. The Vietnam Memorial Wall in D.C., they have a modified replica of it here right behind our Veterans Office there, behind the VA hospital. So if you haven't been over there, you need to see it. It's moving again to the dedication and commitment to our veterans. And then we're doing an open house. There'll be barbecue, and Senator Bozeman will have a mobile office there to help some of those veterans get their paperwork processed. I think this month, we already at serving 75 veterans. Last month, we hit right at 100. 120 was the month before. So the veterans are getting it. They see where we are, and they're really coming by and utilizing the services. Our animal shelter, they're working with our grant department. They just received a grant from PetSmart. They're getting a mobile transit unit for their animals to help them in moving their pets. So again, the animal shelter continues to take care of our animals. They will see a peak, a spike in our dogs and cats, or puppies and kittens, just because it's getting warmer. And so I guess that's what dogs and cats do when it gets warmer. I don't know, but that's what they're telling me. But anyway, so if you guys go adopt some cats and kittens and dogs and puppies and that type of thing. Our IT department has really been on full blast over the past week and a half with the WannaCry virus that had really hit a lot of across the country. Association of Judges got notices from Little Rock saying, make sure you guys go back through your systems and check all your IT systems because this virus was pretty vicious in how it got across to so many. In fact, we put a note out to the county that we're really putting a halt on our on your Gmail, Yahoo personal emails because, again, you can't control a lot of that. There'll be some workarounds for some of the elected officials, but again, to minimize the virus and the types of spam. So we're again still working with mayors across. We had another meeting with the mayors in the county. We continue to work with our elected officials, having breakfasts once a month, just to kind of again talk about the things that's going on in the county. And again, looking forward to working with the JPs as we start working through the budget. That's my report. Justice Pine.
You left one thing out.
Oh, I probably left a number out.
You left yourself out of the long, hard hours during the flood. Heard a lot of comment from the county employees that you were there and you carried a heavy load.
Well, thank you, sir. But that's what we do. Thank you. Thank you. Justice Bowman.
Thank you, Judge. I've heard rumors that you and the chief shared duties and went around the clock that weekend to get things done. And I think everybody ought to realize that you guys didn't just ask everybody else to do it. You got out there and did it yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I, again, appreciate all of you guys for calling and helping out as well. I have two appointments. One, the library board, the county library board, Miss Felice Barrett. I think you would have got that, as well as the Equalization Board, Miss Mildred Runkle, and I think she's been on for a while. I think Miss Runkle, is you here? I don't know if I saw her. And I see Miss Barrett is here. But again, I have those two appointments and would entertain a motion to accept those. Second. It's been moved and properly second to accept our Felice Barrett. Oh, that's could be, that's not roll call, right? No, it's moved and properly second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay. All right. Where are we? We already hit that one. So we're on number 9, 10. Committee reports. You want to take the first one with the Association of Counties?
Sure.
Justice Madison.
So we met in April, the Saturday before Easter, which also was the Arkansas Derby and turkey season, so it was not a popular day to be in Little Rock. But we've changed it, so we will no longer be meeting with our potentially with all those conflicts. But this was the annual meeting of the Arkansas Association of Quorum Courts, which is it's the JP entity that is part of Association of Counties, of which I am your representative. So this was the beginning of a new term in the JP world, and so we held caucuses, again, like we've done every year, and we caucus by congressional district, so that means the odds are in our favor in our district because we don't have as many counties because our counties are so populated. So if you're down in South Arkansas in your congressional district, there's a lot more people vying for the spots than up here. So I was lucky enough to be elected as one of our congressional districts, 3 representatives again to the board, and then I was elected to be secretary again on the board. So, and that saves y'all money because then that means the Association of Counties pays my mileage. So we had our meeting on April 15th. Mostly we talked about the legislative changes that came out of the General Assembly's recent session, and I'm going to go over some of those. Not all of them. There were a lot that they thought would be of interest to JPs, but I think there are some that are of particular interest that I'm going to review briefly. But I wanted to tell you one interesting fact. They asked for the individuals who were, and there were 50 counties, 50 of the 75 counties were representative, which was a pretty good turnout for considering all the conflicts. They asked if anybody had served as a JP over 30 years, and 4 people stood up. Wow. And then they asked if anyone had served over 35 years, and one guy remained standing. He's from Nevada County, and he's been a JP for almost 40 years. So I told him I didn't really want to do it that long. So there are some people that have made really a lifetime out of this. Okay, so let me highlight for you some of the legislative changes that I think are of note to you. I have all the act numbers and bill numbers, so I'm going to read the act numbers, so hopefully we can get them in the minutes and they would be announced, but I have them if you need them, so don't freak out about trying to jot them down. Act 158 says that you can no longer run for JP and something else. We apparently had been in a loophole that we could maybe run for 2 offices at once. We cannot do that. Also of note are some significant changes that are elections, which most of you may have heard about, but Act 910 now consolidates school elections with the primary or the general election. So this will be the last year when school elections are held on their own day. Act 730 made it so that unopposed candidates will no longer appear on ballots. That was part of this initiative of consolidating elections because the election commissions and the county clerks freaked out about all the stuff that has to be put on a ballot. And all those unopposed candidates take up a lot of room. So if you're unopposed, you're no longer going to get to see your name on the ballot unless you are the governor, a mayor, or the circuit clerk, because they have to know how many people vote for ballot initiatives. They collect the number of votes so that they can say, to do a petition drive, it's 10% of however many people voted. Act 787 is a significant change for JPs in terms of campaign materials. Well, actually, it's for all candidates. Previously, you didn't have to have paid-for buy on most of your campaign materials, and that has changed. And so now anything that's mailed out to an elector, signs, banners, flyers, pamphlets, yard signs, push cards, anything that's printed, there are some exclusions like a T-shirt or a pin or a sticker or a button or nail files. If you're going to give away nail files, you don't have to put it on that. I think once somebody gave me a pot holder as a campaign, so I think that would qualify as an excluded other similar trinket. But the key is that for most of your campaign material, you're going to have to put paid for buy on it. The one exception for those of you who are frugal campaigners, like I am, and save all your yard signs, if it was printed prior to the effective date of this, you can use your old stuff. So I breathed a sigh of relief when I heard that because I didn't want to spend all that money again. They did a lot of cleanup with Act 299 and Act 757. There were some things that they had missed with the Amendment 55 transition from justices of the peace being actual judicial officers to being legislative officers. So I think if you wanted to do a controlled burn, a property owner could come to us. Now they go to the county judge. I know you all will be very disappointed that your neighbor cannot come to you and ask you to value their livestock that was killed by a neighbor's dog. That is no longer within your power. So you get the gist. I don't think any of these powers were being exercised, but they were there, and so they took care of cleaning it up. And those were actually some initiatives that came out of our organization to try to get some of those things cleaned up. Act 703 changes the way those fire protection districts works. They can now come to us and petition to do, we had some controversy in recent years about whether 501c3s could qualify for being on the tax bill. So this Act 703 cleaned that up. So they can come and now petition the Quorum Court to convert to a fire protection district and get that ability to collect their fees through the tax collector's bill. Act 193 changes it's the ordinance, or it's the statute that provides for the procedures when buying from one of us or a county employee. And previously that applied to goods or services, which we know if a county employee wants to do business from the county, they come to us. That had not included real property. And so they added it to include real property because I think a county had a situation come up where a JP needed to sell property to the county and they couldn't do it. There was no mechanism for it. And it also clarified that to do business with one of those folks, you have to have a 2/3 vote. So it's a supermajority to do that. Act 161 establishes a late assessment fee fund in the assessor's office. This was basically there was a statute that provided for a collection of a late fee of 50 cents for delinquent assessments, but there was no fund created to have it, so they've made it so that there's a way to actually attribute it and spend it. Act 1126, this is probably the most significant change substantively. It won't take effect right away. I always get confused when I talk about it, so I'll try to make it clear. Retailers of a certain size were able to get a discount if they remit their sales tax to the state in a timely fashion. And so they got a 2% discount. So what that meant was a large retailer would get a pretty sizable discount on, or actually any retailer, anybody who's remitting sales tax gets this discount for early payment. But what happened was there was a cap imposed on how big that discount could be. But that cap only applied to the state's portion of sales tax. It didn't apply to us. So if a big retailer, we could think of a few, were to remit sales tax, we would always lose out on that 2% in what we collected. And we were seeing a lot of lost revenue that way. The Association of Counties estimated there were only about 160 retailers that actually truly were benefiting from this because of the cap. So the Association of Counties pushed to put the cap in place for us too. And that's going to phase in over a period of time. I think it's 5 years, so that it didn't hit those retailers all at once. But that should eventually see a little bit more. Not a lot. You realize what you're dealing with, but it's a way to sort of increase that revenue. Because this was actually sales tax that's being collected that then the retailer is not remitting to us. So the last little issue, don't get too excited, but there's a little bit more money coming our way for juror payments. If a juror shows up and is not selected for jury duty, we have to pay them. But the state was not paying us for that. It was only that the state would reimburse us if the juror served. So the Association of Counties found some money in some court fund somewhere that wasn't being tapped, and so they allowed us to be paid $15 for that under Act 276. So lots of interesting, diverse legislation to come out of the session, and we're still no word on the internet sales tax, but I'm still a fan. That's all I have. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Justice Madison. Justice Ecke.
Thank you, Judge. On May 8th, the Personnel Committee met and we discussed the JSAP policy that is changing a bit in that we moved to amend the evaluation pay increase period from what is currently 60 to 90 days to 120 days. And this was at the recommendation of Kyle Sylvester, who brought in an employee, and she was worth all the cap on her salary range, but he wanted to wait to see how well she assimilated in the office and worked well with the other staffers there. And I thought that was a very prudent measure that he introduced to JSAP, so they all approved. And so we are going to be changing that from 60 to 90 days. And then on other business, I'm going to start with this one first. I see Mrs. Woods in the room. No comment, please. I've always said that attitude reflects leadership, and the attitude of the county employees during this disaster was fantastic. And of course, that does reflect, Judge, your leadership and the leadership of Mr. Gales during this time and everybody else. And it was seconded and applauded, and we all just were very proud of you and your leadership during this time. And I do believe we all had a second and an applause. So with that, we said thank you. The other item was
And this is still personnel. Right?
This is still personnel.
Yep.
I know,
Wow.
but because it has to do with the attitude of the county employees, and that is very close to us. And we have to watch what their attitudes are and the needs of our personnel. And when they feel that there's a leader at the helm that they can trust and have confidence, the attitude, and not only that, the quality of services they give everybody else increases with your leadership. So that's why I was able to broach that subject. The other one was I did speak with John Adams, Director of IT, about possibly putting notebooks or tablets for the Quorum Court. And I spoke with Ms. Farber also, and I know that Eva Madison is doing research on that with other counties as well. So we're hoping to save the county money by replacing paper. And that was the personnel May 8th. Thank you.
Justice Madison.
Did we need to approve the JSAP change here?
No, it was already. No.
Okay. I thought it was voted on personnel. Okay.
It wasn't on the agenda this time, and we'll do that next time now.
Okay.
But there were no.
Okay. Other committee reports. Justice Dennis?
The public services is so short that might not even need to give it, but at the same time, Bertie Kurtz came and spoke to us about poison hemlock and some other issues like that. And then we had a short discussion about whether or not to entertain education on sewer systems, and we chose not to at that time. And the person wanting to give the report chose not to give it at that time too. So that ended that particular meeting. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I hate that I missed the hemlock, because as soon as I did not hear that, I went out in the floods and got poison ivy, and yeah, so I probably should have known. But it was dark. I couldn't see all that stuff anyway, so all right. Any other reports, committee reports?
I forgot one thing.
Justice Madison?
I forgot to announce that the annual Arkansas Association of Counties meeting will be held in Little Rock August 9th, 10th, and 11th if you're interested in attending.
Okay. Any other committee reports? Other business? To 12.1.
Say again?
Other business 12.1.
Oh, yeah, other business, 12.1. Mr. Maxwell, would you read that for us, please, sir?
Resolution, I think this is 12.1, mine aren't numbered. So.
Yeah, we just had that.
Yeah.
Resolution recognizing a vacancy in the Quorum Court District Number 2 for 2017.
Thank you, sir. I move that we pass 12.1.
It's been moved and properly second. Resolution with roll. Ms. Betty? Roll call. Oh, yeah. So do we then need to do a roll call on the public? I mean, on the resolution? Got it. Okay. Ms. Betty?
Justice Madison.
Oh, yes.
Justice Maxwell.
Yes.
Justice Patterson. Yes. Justice Pond.
Yes.
Justice Ussery.
Yes.
Justice Balls.
Yes.
Justice Bowman.
Yes.
Justice Dennis.
Yes.
Justice Ecke.
Yes.
Justice Harbison.
Is that enough still? Okay. All right, it's been approved. We got the vacancy, and we'll notify the governor. 12.2.
Yes, sir.
Justice
We have
Fine.
an ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit granted by the Planning Board and the Zoning Board. And what this pertains to is it's a self-storage unit on Huntsville Road. There's no controversy over it. It fits in that neighborhood very well. I just moved it past 12.2.
We're going to have him read the title only.
You want to read the title
Just
again?
keep trying to cut me out of my job here.
Okay.
An ordinance ratifying a constitutional use permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board. I think on this one we better read the rest of it so that we specify it versus the other one. Whereas the Planning and Zoning Board granted a conditional use permit with conditions on May 4th, 2017 for Huntsville Road Storage, East Side Self-Storage. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas. Article 1, the conditional use permit with conditions for Huntsville Road Storage, East Side Self-Storage granted by the Planning and Zoning Board is hereby ratified.
I still move to approve 12.2.
It's been moved and properly second. Public comment, anyone? Okay, Ms. Betty.
Justice Madison. Yes. Justice Maxwell.
Yes.
Justice Patterson.
Yes.
Justice Bond.
Yes.
Bond. Justice Ussery.
Yes.
Justice Bowles.
Yes.
Justice Bowman.
Yes.
Justice Dennis.
Yes.
Justice Ecke. Justice Harbison.
Okay. Justice Pine, 12.3.
Yes. Justice Patterson, would you like to read 12.3?
Justice Patterson?
Justice Maxwell. Sorry.
It's good, mate.
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit granted by the Planning and Zoning Board, whereas the Planning and Zoning Board granted a conditional use permit on May 4th, 2017 for Baldwin Cell Tower. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, Article 1, that the conditional use permit for Baldwin Cell Tower granted by the Planning and Zoning Board is hereby ratified.
Yes, this is just one of those freestanding towers, like a flagpole or the other type that they're. So it mirrors the cell towers that are scattered throughout Fayetteville, about every square mile. Being that one of our requirements, being zoned to mirror the adjacent municipal properties. There's been very little, nearly no controversy about this tower. I've moved past 12.3.
It's been moved and properly second. Mr. Watson, you have a question? No. All right.
You just about bought a calf, buddy.
All right. Ms. Betty?
Ready? Justice Madison.
Did we read that?
Just,
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Ms. Betty.
Justice Madison. Yes. Justice Maxwell.
Yes.
Justice Patterson. Yes. Justice Pond.
Yes.
Justice Essery. Yes. Justice Balls.
Yes.
Justice Bowman. Yes. Justice Dennis. Yes. Justice Ecke. Yes. Justice Harbison.
Okay. Justice Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I thought about sending an email about this and thought better of it. So I should share my remarks in the meeting. But I know a lot of us have been overwhelmed with all the information about the sewer systems. And I've talked to Director Kimbrough and Nathan Crouch in planning a lot about what's been going on. And I think we're all kind of hungry for some information on this. And we have experts that work in the county, Michelle Viney, Director Kimbrough, Nathan Crouch, others who Carl Gales, who I know are very informed on these self-contained sewer systems. And I hope there will be an opportunity, Judge, before not too long, where we can hear from them. Because one of the things that troubles me is that right now we're being told we're going to be educated by the folks that are actually profiting off of those, and that concerns me from a conflict of interest standpoint. I certainly want to hear those folks' perspective, but I don't think that it's their role to be the ones to educate us, given that they have a financial stake in it. And that it sort of bothered me after our meeting that we're being told we need to be educated, and we need to be educated by the people that we're seeking to regulate. That seems to be a little bit counterintuitive. It's not that I want to exclude their perspective. I just think we don't need to be under the impression that we're being educated by them. I think we should rely on our county employees, our directors, our county attorney to educate us on those things and to be the ones to look out for county citizens. So I hope before it's not too long before we can have a meeting where we hear from those folks, because I know Chief Gales sent an email about some stuff, and I know he has a lot of information about this. So I would just say to my fellow justices, hold tight. I think there's a lot of information to be gained about this, and I know a lot of information is being thrown at us. But I would say withhold judgment until we hear from our own folks. So thank you, Judge.
Yes, comment on the same issue. Part of the picture that we're not getting here as far as education goes is, and we need a spokesperson to come in from the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. These are the individuals that permit these things, and we do receive reports and all sorts of paper as far as the way they grade these towers and these systems and their performance. We really need input from them as to simply the term out of compliance actually means, and the response from the entities when they are found out of compliance. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Pond. I know Justice Dennis, he has this under the Public Works, and I think we had a brief conversation. I think you're right. Clearly the education piece, and that's what he wanted to do at the last one. I think we want to make sure that Director Biney gets that teed up and ready, and I think your comment, Justice Pine, is duly noted that maybe when we're doing that Public Works one and Biney's there, that we may have ADEQ and Department of Health there as well to kind of help give a full picture. then we can roll that either to the Quorum Court and or have others outside of that. But then we have our county government and state government kind of all on the same page, sharing with the JPs what we're doing, how we're doing it, and then we can interface with, obviously, the public. So duly noted. Any other piece on that one, Justice Dennis? I know that's where you were trying to go, but I think that's where we'll have binding sheets ready to go, and we'll have that PowerPoint and all that set up and ready. Justice Hawkinson.
Well, there were three of us that did attend the meeting yesterday, and I thought it was very informational for the, some individual's not going to persuade me that has an interest in this, but I thought that the plant itself, the information that we gathered from that was very good yesterday. And I understand why other, people may not have gone, but I did go. And, I know these people have a stake.
Sure.
And I think I'm strong enough not to be persuaded by someone like that. Thank you.
No worries. JP Dennis.
Go ahead.
Well, I just might add that I don't know if it's my job or their job, being the experts, to volunteer, or do I ask them?
Who's that?
But the door is always open for them to come and talk about this and to educate.
Yep.
And the invitation was even offered last time. Thank you.
Thank you. Justice Eki, did you have something? Okay. Anyone else? Justice Bond, do you have any? No. James? All right, I think we have one motion left. A motion to adjourn. It's been properly moved and second. All in favor? All right. Thank you, guys.